Hey guys, welcome in to the Outspoken Network here, Sportscast. It's your Week 5 takeaways. We got your host Brian and Craig on, and we got a couple special guests today. We got Paul from Bearskifilms, and we've got David from Bearskifilms as well. His first time on the show. Welcome in, guys.
Yeah, thank you for having us both on. Um, we're big Bears fans and we get all of our Bears conversation out on our podcast, but we're also big NFL fans. So in our private conversations, we always talk NFL talk, and it's nice to just be able to, join you guys and chat about the league. So
All
thank you.
right, there's a lot to get into, a lot to chat about. A lot of breaking news today. How are you, Craig?
Good, you.
Good, good. How was your hunting trip, by the way? Did you catch anything?
Other than the deer forgetting to show up, so
Yeah, I figured you didn't catch anything because I didn't see any pictures, but
yeah, they didn't get the memo.
they didn't get the memo. All right, we're gonna start off with kind of the two breaking newses today. One's really not too much breaking news. Getting our takeaways and then our NFL power rankings. The biggest breaking news today was the Jets fire Robert Saleh. 2-3 start. Now I don't know about you guys, but I never thought Robert Saleh was that great of a head football coach in the first place. Um, They say that Aaron Rodgers didn't was blindsided by this and didn't have any say so in this, but I don't. I think if you believe that, then I got a bridge I could sell you because I don't believe that one bit. Um, any people in this podcast here that think Robert Saleh was a good head coach?
Um, Not a good head coach, but listen, for the situation that the Jets were in, they needed a head coach that was willing to just bend over backwards and do whatever it took to please Aaron Rodgers. And Robert Saleh did that, in my opinion. He did whatever they wanted, right? So it's kind
That's
of hard
true.
to even judge him
I mean,
because, I mean,
kind of have
yeah,
no backbone, I guess. Because I mean, let's be real. I think this is more on Aaron Rodgers than anything, and I say that because Rodgers does not do pre-snap motion. He doesn't allow the offense to be creative. He doesn't like pre-snap motion. He likes I'm going to get to the line, I'm going to make my reads, and it's live or die on Aaron Rodgers making the right decision, calling the right play. Um, he kills any creativity on offense, and that's why he stuck with his guy Nathaniel Hackett. We saw the job he did when he went to Denver. It was one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL, but this guy swears by him because he knows he runs his old style offense that won't allow people to change. So I 100% agree that this is Rodgers, and I don't think watching him play his 5 games, I don't think he's got much left in the tank like I thought he did.
Um, I don't know if it's an Aaron. I don't think Aaron Rodgers not having much left in the tank thing. I don't know if I necessarily agree. I think it's like a weird thing of the older guys that you see in the NFL, like Joe Flacco, Philip Rivers, towards the end, where you just see some vet plays that look astounding, and then like the mediocre day to day average stuff, like the play to play stuff, is actually kind of crappy. I don't know what that could attribute that to. And Brian, you were as a Packers fan, if I recall, wasn't there a time towards the end of Rodgers' tenure where he was frustrated that with that old style offense where he wanted some cheap motions installed and he was kept complaining about like teams that have motions and sweeps and all this stuff and guys, am I misremembering this?
Well, that was at the end of McCarthy's. I don't think that really happened with Floor, if I'm not mistaken. With
Because
McCarthy,
LaFleur's big on that, right?
yeah, we use it a lot more. I really like Lafleur in his offense, what he calls, but Rodgers at the end of McCarthy's career, which or time in Green Bay, which I totally I think he lost the game in Arizona on purpose to get him fired. Um, that's was his biggest complaint was that the offense was boring, and they would come up with these plays and I don't know if it was pre-snap motion or not, but they would come up with these plays that they always practiced, but when it came to game time, they never called them, never played them. McCarthy refused to put them on the field. So yeah, you're right about that. But
Gotcha. I just
um,
was
yeah,
curious to that because I
yeah,
do agree with you that that's what you're seeing in New Jersey or New York right now, where that's kind of just Aaron Rodgers' forte, and he's bullying everybody there. And I think rarely has there been a demonstration of NFL quarterbacks that hold their team hostage and do everything for the benefit of them. I think Tom Brady's the only example where that works out for the good of everybody. Secondly, I think, funnily enough, I think Hard Knocks has broken all of our brains towards what a good head coach is or not. Because I remember watching Dan Campbell on Hard Knocks, and I thought that dude was silly and goofy and rah-rah, and I didn't really believe it while I watched it. And then I watched Robert Saleh, and he looked like a pro, and Matt Eberflus kind of looked serviceable on Hard Knocks. I don't know. He's kind of a joke too, but I don't really know what a good NFL head coach looks like in terms of those behind the scenes stuff. So was Robert Saleh a problem? Probably not. I think that's a lot closer than anything, but he definitely was in that tier with me where, I put him in that category with like Eberflus, Saleh, and sorry, Craig, like Mike McCarthy. Like they might not necessarily screw you week to week, but they're definitely not winning you any games. So usually the week after a big head coach firing like this, you're going to see one of two things: an absolute catastrophic collapse or some sort of stupid Antonio Pierce 2 to 3 game uptick because everybody's excited that the guy was gone. Now, if Aaron Rodgers was the only guy really, really banging the table to get him out of there, the rest of the team's probably going to be pretty pissed because if I'm not mistaken, Robert Saleh was the defensive guy and the defense was doing a pretty good job. The offense was the problem, really. And Robert Saleh being gone, and now I don't even know who's the interim, unless they're just like saying that, the defense is the problem. And now Aaron Rodgers, we're taking the shackles off of Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how much shackles Saleh was putting on Aaron Rodgers to begin with. So we'll find out very, very quickly.
But you got to look at how it happened. They're not saying the defense was the problem. They're saying we had an encounter with Robert Saleh that was extreme enough to get him walked out of here. He went in there and listen, I don't know what he said or what he did.
The way they handled
He
it,
got escorted.
This was not planned.
This
was not like a planned firing by any means, right. I don't think. So, and you know what's funny, guys? They escort people out of my job when they fire them in my building. And we have state police that works in my building. So usually there's 2 state police officers because there's been a lot of times where they trip down the stairs at the very end and they're still hired. So now you got to pay a medical. Robert Saleh should have taken every opportunity he had to
slam my head against the wall on the way out.
Anything. Yeah.
Yeah, the way they handled it, he didn't get to say goodbye to anybody. He walked in the door and said, "Get your stuff in a box and get out of here." Craig, what are your takes on Robert Saleh and why maybe he was fired? I mean,
I think a big part of the Jets right now is chemistry, and time. Rodgers had no time. He didn't play any of the preseason the year before. Plays 1 snap or 2 snaps, blows his Achilles out, and then has another, year off, and then comes in and doesn't play any of the preseason. He has had no work with any of these guys. Yeah. It's not like he's played with them. It's not like they tried to bring in guys from Green Bay and that he knew and that he, had, known before. That didn't work. Saleh had a complete bad draw from the start. He gets Rodgers, he gets hurt. He's got to deal with, the rookie quarterback who everybody knows was not an NFL quarterback. So they lose a bunch of games there, and then he comes in this year and he has his quarterback, but they just haven't played well. The defense has kept him in games, and that's what he was brought in for, was the defense. I think he is he's the fall guy, and like Dave said, I think you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to fall on your face, or the team's going to be like, all right, that guy's gone now. Aaron Rodgers runs the offense, and this interim guy doesn't know. He doesn't know anything about the team and the football, and it's just. I think the team goes in the tank and spirals out of control, and I think Rodgers either leaves there and goes to try to get on with another team and one last hurrah, or he just says, "Hey, I'm done," and walks away.
Well, their schedule doesn't get really much easier. They got the Bills this Sunday, this Monday. They've got the Steelers, which the Steelers aren't a problem. They've got the Patriots, which Patriots aren't a problem. Then you got Houston. So 4 games there. and honestly, they should have beat Minnesota if Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw 3 interceptions. But
I mean,
So,
but they're
I guess
they're
my
tied for second in their division though. This
it's
isn't
not,
like
yeah, an 0-4
like
start,
and
1 and
I
4.
know Greg, like you said, he's the fall guy, and like, but like fall guy for what? This is your shot. Like last year was your bigger window.
Yeah.
This year you still have an opportunity. Like this is what you have left, and
Well,
as
he's
an
the guy
ownership,
taking.
you're
I
just
say that.
as an ownership, you're just gonna unplug this thing and implode it. I know what you're saying. He's the fall guy, but I mean that's like the typical term. But there's nothing to fall for here. Like this is just I don't know, man. This is I think a
It
spur of the
reeks of
moment thing.
of
It's crazy to
desperation.
me.
It's because
It does.
they got Rodgers to win now, and they're like, this is not the start we wanted.
Right.
2-3, we got a losing record. Everyone said we should have won the division. That Tua is out. The Bills have been playing really good, Josh Allen, but this is a desperation win now kind of move. Seems kind of like they were supposed to win now, and they haven't been living up to expectations.
Then
But
you
it
fire like
is
the
kind of
defensive
weird.
coordinator. So I don't know. Like
Well, he's
to
the
me,
new
that's bold,
interim,
I
the
know.
new the defense coordinator.
What I heard is he wanted to fire
interim.
Nathaniel Hackett, and
They
I think that conversation didn't go over well.
They said Nathaniel Hackett's job was on the line before Robert Saleh, and then Robert Saleh. That tells me that Rodgers went in there and said, "You ain't firing this guy, so you better figure it out." And they said, "Robert Saleh, see you later," because Nathaniel Hackett is Rodgers' guy. Period. End of discussion.
That's kind of where I was going with this.
Yeah.
3 quick addressments I would like to go through in order, I guess, Brian. You listed those 4 games. I don't see how getting rid of Robert Saleh in any of those 4 games gives you a bonus or an advantage, right? You listed like Patriots, Bills. Like getting rid of Robert Saleh is not now increasing your odds of beating those teams for some reason. That's
Right.
1. 2,
I agree.
desperation mode for what? What are you desperate about? Your offense was better under Zach Wilson and Nat Hackett last year. And Zach Wilson's the 3rd string quarterback on Denver, for Christ's sake, at this point. So we're talking about Garrett Wilson performing better. You have more running backs this year. You have a better offensive line this year, statistically on paper, and everything is there. The only difference this year from last year's offense is Aaron Rodgers being back. So
Yeah.
you saying it's like the panic button. I get what you're saying. It does feel like a desperation move, and I forget the ownership's name and for the Jets. I think it's
Is it Woody Johnson?
Allen or
Woody Johnson. That's definitely not Woody Allen. Oh boy, but like, yeah, Woody Johnson just being like, yeah, dude, like we need this to work right now, and for some reason he's obsessed with Aaron Rodgers. So I think, and that was going to be my 3rd point. Like, let's play this out. Robert Saleh walks in there and he goes like, "Here's what I want. I'm the head fucking coach. That's what you hired me for, and this is my call. Either we are benching Aaron Rodgers, or we are firing Nathaniel Hackett." Woody Johnson's the only one, or whoever the GM is in New York, I don't know off the top of my head, goes absolutely the fuck not. Aaron Rodgers will leave mid-season if you fire Nathaniel Hackett. And Robert Saleh goes, "Well, motherfucker, if that's the case, then don't even have me as head coach if I don't get to make that call." And they said, "You got it. You're not head coach."
See you
anymore."
later.
Put some
That's
stuff
a
in a
good
box
point.
and
Yeah.
here's the door.
Yeah, it's an interesting
We
move.
could
at
swear on
2
your
and-
show, right? You guys don't care, do you?
Well, I try to keep
Okay.
it down a little bit,
Try and keep
but
it clean
that's
then. All
okay.
right.
It's
I'll
okay.
keep it clean
You
moving
know.
forward.
It's just a weird move at 2-3. I understand if they're 0-5, 1-4. I don't think the Bengals are I mean, they're struggling, but I don't think they're as desperate. This move just seems and reaps as desperation. And like I said, this has Aaron Rodgers written all over it, in my opinion. But
And
I think the
it's
scenario
funny.
I laid out is probably the most likely in that case because it's 2-3.
yeah,
It's funny from like a Bears fan's point of view because that guy's hurt us so much, and like although I even had him as one of my top teams, and I'll recognize the talent and everything like that, it is kind of satisfying watching it spiral and fall apart from a distance. But I expected it the whole time because I knew it would, because he's not Tom Brady. Tom Brady didn't eat a strawberry for like 20-25 years. This guy's taking drugs. Like, listen, this stuff catches up to you, and he's really cocky and arrogant, but like, man, Father Time catches up to it all. I hate you guys for making the right choice and moving on from him. I really do.
we moved on to him a year too late, in my opinion. I was the guy going trade him now. Trade him
because
now,
you
and
would
they
have
held on
traded
to
him
him.
at such a high value.
Yeah,
too.
we would have got a lot
Such
more
a
back
high
for
When
him.
you
Didn't-
have you guys
didn't San
watched
Francisco
a Jets
offer
game?
pick 3 for him or something before they drafted Trey Lance? There was something where
There was
in that
something
draft
there.
they really made
Yeah.
a legit trade offer for Aaron Rodgers.
We said no.
Should have taken.
Have you
it,
guys
should've
watched
taken
any extended clips of a Jets game, like the actual play-by-plays and stuff? They've had 2 national games. I've watched those 2.
Yeah, I've watched the national on the Vikings game. For the
Every
most
time
part,
Aaron
caught
Rodgers
most.
misses, I mean, it's just wide eyes and just going, "What are you doing?" Like that's just
That's the
like,
way he's
I don't
always
know.
been, and it's
Yeah,
It's
and I
never
think
him.
it works when
Yeah.
you're talented. It doesn't work
Exactly.
anymore when you're 40
Exactly.
and you're the problem. Like that stuff doesn't work anymore.
You're 100% right. And we talk about Tom Brady's on the sideline screaming at people. Well, he's got the championship rings to back it up. But when you're losing and you keep losing, and it doesn't work like that anymore. But I think Craig hit it on the doorknob too. While ago is he doesn't show up to mandatory practice. He's like, I'm gonna go to Egypt. Sorry guys, see you later. He doesn't take his guys out in practice. When Aaron Rodgers left Jordan Love, he took his guys to out in practice. Mahomes, what did he do? He takes his guys to Texas and he's running routes and getting familiar with them. That kind of dedication to the team and artwork and getting better as a team, Aaron Rodgers is above that. So I think it's a big part of it too. And Brett Favre was that way too at the end of his career. He was like, I'm a diva now. So, but all right, guys. Well, Drake May, I saw this a while ago watching I watched the Bengals Ravens recap and they had breaking news. Drake May will start for the New England Patriots versus the Texans. I think it's kind of a weird game to start him against one of the best defenses in the football. And me and Craig kind of talked about this last week. I don't know why you draft a guy that high to sit behind Jacoby Brissett because Jacoby Brissett sucks. But they're starting him finally. So do you guys think Drake May is going to be a good quarterback? Craig, we'll start with you on this one.
I thought so when I watched the tape. I thought he was going to be serviceable and give him some wins and but that team just has nothing offensively to like the offensive line isn't great. The running game's not great. The wide receivers are average at best. The play calling is all over the map. I just don't know how much success he's going to have. How many reps did he get in training camp with once they moved to Brissett? Brissett was taking the first team. So how many reps does he have with these guys that he's throwing the ball to? I just think they didn't do this kid any favors from the get go. They drafted him and they immediately 2 weeks into training camp said he's going to be the backup and Jacoby's going to be the starter. So he's taking second team reps. They put him in a game here, put him in a game there, and I just don't. And again, like you said, against the Texans, that's
Yeah.
what we're deciding. You know, and if he goes out and looks terrible, do they do like they did in Carolina and bury him on the bench and leave him there? I mean, I just don't think they're doing this kid any favors.
I agree with you. The biggest knock on him coming out of college is he played for North Carolina and he didn't play in the
Right.
SEC. He didn't play in those big games. We didn't see him in those big time games. He's got a strong arm. I don't know how accurate he is with the football. I don't think he's going to be that good, and I think it's because I think the Patriots don't have really an identity right now. What are we? Are we the mediocre team? Are we rebuilding? Are we trying it, to win it all? Which I don't think they are, obviously. But where are they? What are they? They don't got, like you said, they ain't got much talent. They're more of we're going to play good defense and we're going to run the ball hard. But I just don't see too much success there. And they've lost their identity, I think, obviously and I can't blame them since you lose Belichick and Brady. But I just don't know if Drake May is going to make it. But what about you, Paul?
So, everything you guys are saying is true, but I think that's why it makes sense to do it now because you're saying they didn't do him any favors. No, not doing him any favors would have been tossing him in there right away. With everything going wrong, and then add a bunch of pressure to it, right? So listen, this team's on a 4-game losing streak. They're last in their division. there's no more pressure. You're not winning this year, right? Like nobody expects him to go out there and be great. If you do, it's a bonus. It's a plus. If you could kind of save this thing, all right. But that's not the expectation here. The expectation here now is go out there, get your reps, get adjusted to the speed of this league. Let's see what you can do. Let's make some things work. But I mean, it's under a different atmosphere altogether because everybody knows that they're not going to be good. So you're just gonna go in there and focus on trying to build something. And at that point, I like Drake May a lot. I think the size, I believe he's like 6'5", 220. Like he's a big kid. I think there's a lot to like about him, but the one thing that I remember hearing pre-draft is that he's very raw. He is gonna need some time. He's gonna need some time to develop and things like that. So yeah, sitting him 5 games, definitely probably a favor to him. Now you put them in there and you just kind of start from the basics and work on the basics. It is a lost season for them. So it depends on, I think, how you're looking at it. But I think the move makes sense. You drafted them for a reason. Might as well get them in there now and start working on getting good for next year. So
You got any takes there, David?
Yeah, I got a little bit of something in between you guys as well, though. I do agree with Paul with that you do need to get him his reps for sure. I just don't know if the timing of it makes any sense. So if this was like 6 or 7 games left in the season, and I'm looking at their schedule, like do it against, I don't know, the Rams, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Cardinals, the Bills. That's the end of your season. Like Paul said, when it doesn't matter, that's when you can get the guy that his reps. But there's really two ways this can go, right? Is if he's bad, he'll get reps, but now you can't bench him. You can't sit him out if he needs that. You have to stay with him for like 10 more games, and that could crush more confidence than it gives him more reps and positivity. Like Bryce Young probably looked better in a quarter against the Bears in garbage time than he did in his first 17, 18 games because pressure was off, right? So that pressure isn't necessarily a good thing for all guys. So I do agree that he needs his reps, and it probably just would have been smarter with like 6 or 7 games left. And then now that you look at it, though, it's like, what are your two possible results? If it goes bad and he's really, really bad, I guess the positive behind that is now you're looking for another quarterback next year, but you can't just give up on a guy after 10 games. So that is kind of like the two-sided mirror, the double, whatever phrase you want to use of like that's kind of going to bite you. Double-sided coin, whatever sword analogy,
Double-edged sword, all that.
Double-edged sword. Yeah. It's gonna kind of like bite you in the ass because you can't give up on him in 10 games, but he might totally suck and look like an absolute catastrophe. That's if he's bad, and then you can't bench him because it's gonna ruin confidence, or you're just gonna get his brains bashed in and get him hurt, ruins more confidence, whatever. Let's say he's great because I did like him, and the crazy thing is like this guy might be like, depending on how this season went, like we have 5 good rookie quarterbacks in the league this year. I have this theory that I've been working on right now where I'm like, I think the rest of the league is just kind of either gone down or the quarterback exceptionalism has gone down where there's not like those 3 or 4 guys. I think everybody's just like good, like mediocre. There's just like 2 or 3 really, really good guys every year now. And then they go back down to earth because you got Bo Nix is doing decent. Who the hell knows how JJ McCarthy would have been doing right now? Probably pretty damn good if he was starting. Caleb, I don't know how you guys feel about him. I've seen nothing but growth, and he looks really, really promising. Jalen is doing really well in Washington. I think there's going to be a little bit come back down to earth there because I've been watching. I don't know about that. I think he's solid. I don't know if that's necessarily going to maintain. And then, like, Drake May probably will come in and play pretty good football, though. So, like, now let's say you're better, and right now you're the first overall pick in next year's draft, and you're just shooting yourself in the foot and putting yourself at 8. So now you're giving him less support. So now if he's mediocre and wins you like 2 extra games that Jacoby wouldn't, I don't know. I just don't see the benefit of doing it now. I do see the benefit of doing it, period, maybe with like 5 or 6 games left, but not necessarily right now. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I was a big fan of you draft the guy that high, you don't have a quarterback. Jacoby Brissett, we know who he's a journeyman who's not going to win you. He's going to be your mediocre football team. 8 wins, 9 wins, maybe 7. I would have started him. We're going to need to figure out what this guy is, and the sooner you figure out if he's the guy, then you can start looking for your next quarterback if he's not. Now, I'm not saying give up on him year one. I think a lot of guys give up on their quarterbacks too young. I think you need at least 3 years, unless he looks absolutely lost. But you want to see some progression. I was
But
fine
Brian,
with
that's
starting him.
funny because
starting
your
year one.
your organization has sat quarterbacks for years.
But the difference is, and here's the toughest, is we had the guy. We had Brett Favre. We drafted his replacement. He could sit. We had Aaron Rodgers. We drafted his replacement, Love. He could sit and learn something from these two legends of the game. Jacoby Brissett, I mean, he could, yeah. Is he going to be able to teach him some things? Yes, of course. He's been in the league longer, but to me, you don't have the quarterback that's going to give you a chance to win and pitch you where you want to be. Right, we're all fight for the Super Bowl. So at that point, I'm fine starting him year one, especially since you drafted him so high. If you took him later, like late in the first round, or you took him second round, then by any means. But when you draft a quarterback in the top 5, to me, you got to start him unless you have that guy, and the Patriots definitely don't. But and it's hard to do what Green Bay's done, right? To get the great quarterback. All right, we see him kind of declining. Let's get his replacement in here, and we've done it
I
twice. But
I just think the league somewhere 5 or 6 years ago shifted to where that used to be the standard was you drafted a guy and let him sit for a couple years and learn from the guy that was there and then you put him in. And now all of a sudden 5 or 6 years ago it was just like we drafted him, he's playing day one.
yeah,
That's it. And that's the new standard. I mean the Caleb Williams, the Jaden Daniels, the CJ Strouds, the Bryce Youngs. I mean, they're all just day one. Here's the keys. Have a good time, and sometimes it works in the Stroud, deal. The CJ, Caleb Williams is working better than I thought it would. I didn't think that it was going to be as successful as it has become, and Jaden Daniels has definitely had more success than
oh
what
yeah,
what
absolute beast.
I thought he would have. I mean, I thought that team was going to be down with the Giants in the bottom of the division, and here they are leading the way. I mean, they really haven't. Their schedule's been,
It's been pretty easy.
yeah. I mean, the Browns are what. I mean, they're not. That's not a big win
Worst team in
to
football.
me. Yeah,
Them and the Panthers.
that quarterback over there is. I mean, they've got some problems.
They're
So
hoping.
we'll see.
They're hoping he gets in more trouble so they can get rid of his
Right,
contract.
right.
But
I got a question. So do you think like Peyton Manning going out there rookie year and throwing 28 interceptions, was that beneficial for him? Because Brian, I agree with you. Like throw them out there and see if they can
yeah.
sink or swim, because you've seen examples of guys that can swim. You've seen examples in Seattle where they take a guy in the third round like Russell Wilson and give him the keys day one.
Right.
And it's not a problem. So I think what it kind of falls down to is your confidence and your ability to coach. Look at San Francisco.
Exactly.
They drafted
100%.
Trey Lance, pick 3. They moved on from him pretty quick. I mean, I know they started him right away, but and then he got hurt. But like, you see what you see in camp and in practice and everything like that. And as long as you're confident with your ability to evaluate that talent accurately, you'll know what the right choice is. And so, that's the thing about Drake May. So if they had to sit him for 5 games, it tells me that one, they don't think he's ready to go and do this. And that could be concerning for a guy you drafted so high. Because I agree with you, Brian.
Exactly.
You should just toss him in there.
And they put a lot of pressure on when you get that top 5 draft pick.
Peyton Manning's wired differently, and the 28 interceptions could have ruined a lot of people, but Peyton Manning just wired differently,
And I got to be honest with you too.
Which is why it bothers me that we try and pay everybody like they're Peyton Manning. But okay, I'm sorry.
100%, 100%. I got to be honest with you. When I saw Jordan Love play for the first time, not his first year starting, but when I saw him play, I was like, "Oh man, this guy's not looking good." And I went back to when Rodgers started. He didn't start year one, but he stepped in far when he first played. You saw, he may have been bad at the beginning. He had a lot of interceptions or whatever, but you saw those flashes. Oh man, what a throw! That was an amazing throw. Oh, look what he did here. Look what he did there, even though he struggled. And you saw him progress and turn out to be one of the best quarterbacks to play the game. And I judged Love a little too harsh in the beginning, but he's obviously better than I thought he would be. So, but yeah, I think you throw him in there. You draft him that high. and you see what he's got. And as long as he's not completely incompetent and looks incompetent back there, then there's something to grow on. And to leave you with you, Paul, it's all about coaching. Do you have the right coach? Do you have the right people behind him to build that quarterback up? And I like what Bo Nix has done
in those
there with Sean
situations.
Payton this year.
Can I just say also,
But-
even in the middle of this conversation, I just don't. I think almost when I'm just a little bit more pragmatic with like my quarterback opinion. I just like saw that news and I was just like, whatever, fucking who cares? Like if he started like week 6 or week 10, I was just like, whatever. Because even in this conversation, I think we're using multiple quarterbacks to prove our points while simultaneously proving that none of these systems fucking matter at all. We just said like one guy sat for 3 fucking years, one guy was a 3rd round pick and blew everyone's brains out in training camp. One guy was Tom Brady, who sat behind Drew Bledsoe, who ruptured his spleen. The most recent example I can think of one that just doesn't make any sense is like Josh Allen. Like Josh Allen got 8 starts, looked mediocre, started slightly progressing. That's like the last example of like an upward trajectory that just kind of never stopped. Patrick Mahomes got 1 year to sit. Baker Mayfield started right away, sucked for a while. Now he's awesome again. It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense.
We
don't know
no
anything.
clear path, right?
No, so
we
like,
don't know anything, and neither do these coaches because they wouldn't have let Baker Mayfield walk and replace him with Deshaun Watson.
So that's
Well,
that's
listen,
just
David.
I think
That's
the
why I
thing that
totally.
helps Baker is he finally has the same coordinator he doesn't have 5 different coordinators every year. He was losing.
But Dave
head
Canales
coaches and
left
coordinators.
last year, and he's doing better this year.
Yeah, and
Well.
Craig, and in his first year with his first coordinator, he made playoffs and made a deep run.
And think about
Right.
that the Browns got rid of the best quarterback they ever had
Yeah, 100%.
and
Because
replaced
it
him
just
with Deshaun.
none of it makes sense. Like
Well,
we'll,
yeah.
we'll know.
You're
I
exactly
guess if you're a Patriots fan, you're just like, I can't wait to watch 10 weeks of like, let me find out.
Yes.
Well, but that's the thing is that's exactly why you do it sooner than later. That's exactly why you just toss them in there because
you
why
start that
wait if
clock.
it's all such a crapshoot
Yeah.
and this and that. Now there's been, like I said, with the Packers.
I'll agree
been
with you
two-
100% there.
Yeah, there's been 2 examples with the Packers where you sit a guy for years and he comes in and he's a decent quarterback. Now the book on Love is still yet to be written. I think he's not Favre. I think he's not Rodgers, and I think he's very average. And I think you guys will be looking to upgrade that position at some point. But regardless, it's still initially it's worked out, right? So, however, could you imagine if every team started trying to sit quarterbacks for 2-3 years? Like I
The
think
gameplay
I
would be
think you would
terrible.
have the same exact thing. Some guys go in there and do well. Some guys go in there
Yeah.
and don't do well. And at
It would
that
just be
point,
2
you've
years delayed.
wasted 3 years of trying to replace the guys that don't do well. So might as well just toss them in there, man.
Brian,
Might
I
as well just-
love
They can either ball or
seeing
can't.
you're very bad at hiding your feelings. On your face. So
yes.
I'm just I'm not I don't consider Bears Packers a rivalry because a rivalry implies that it's like 50-50. So I don't really hate on you guys necessarily.
Over the
I want
course of
to
100
beat you
years,
guys.
it is.
Yeah, it's a rivalry, whatever. Like, cool, man. We've had 2 world wars over this thing. Like, let's calm down about who cares about the rivalry. Like, I don't really hate on Packers. I just do want to beat you guys and like, whatever, get our turn.
Yeah.
But like, honest question, dude. And I'm just saying this from like, I'm not 100% sure about Caleb Williams, but I think the majority of the league is like 65-35 positive. They're like, damn, this kid's working his way up. He's going to be pretty good at worst. And then at best, he'll be like top 10, maybe top 5 one day. Like, what is your confidence level of Jordan Love? Because when I saw that contract, when you were in that contract situation as a fan, did you see the dotted line thing getting signed and you were like, thank God, because we would have been so screwed without him. Like, I'm still so 50-50 if Love is even like good.
3 years guaranteed is the big
Here's the
detail
problem. Here's the problem. We've kind of backed ourselves into a little bit of a hole on the whole. We set Jordan Love, but when we decided to play him, we had 1 year to figure out if he's the guy. Right? We had 1 year to figure it out, or he goes to free agency. And in that year, first 6 games, 7 games, I told Craig, I said, this guy doesn't look very good. I was like, this guy's not the guy. But he he finished the last half of the season better than any quarterback in the NFL. Better than Patrick Mahomes, and we saw him progress. I've never seen a quarterback progress as bad as he looked to where he is now.
Is
I was
that enough?
we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out
That's why I'm
now.
saying like
Like,
we're just
well,
like not 100% sold. I'm
what
just saying.
Paul thinks he's absolutely average. I don't think he's average. But I'm not the guy going Love's gonna be. I'm not expecting him to be Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre. That's a very high bar, right? I'm expecting him to be top 10 quarterback, top 5. You look at the money he's getting paid. But when I knew we were gonna sign him, and yeah, he's getting a lot of money. But what quarterback isn't getting a lot of money that's ready to sign, and we're not going to move on from him? What he just did in the playoffs, he came in and smoked the Cowboys like crazy. We should have beat the 49ers. Shoulda, woulda, couldas, right? But I think he's got the talent now. Does he make some boneheaded plays? Oh, sure, by all means. Like he threw some passes against the Eagles. I'm like, what was that? They threw
Well, like last week is going to be like a top 5 worst play of the season, right?
he goes to throw away the ball from getting a safety and throws a pick six at the 2-yard line. And then you see him go out and throw a 60-yard in the air pass on the dime to Reed. Like I think he's going to be good. I'm not expecting him. Like I think Paul and other people expect him to be Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre. I don't expect that because that's a very high bar. I do think he will be good. I do think, and you got to look at, and here's the other reason you got to look at it too. He's not throwing to some amazing stud number 1 Devontae Adams wide receivers. It's a wide receiver by committee. It's very young. I like what LaFleur does with our offense. I think he's got a lot of say in what Jordan Love's going to be and his coaching, and I really think he's going to be in Green Bay for a long time. I really like Matt LaFleur, but I like Jordan Love. At first, I wasn't convinced. I'm convinced now. We'll see. I thought we were going to win the division this year or be number 2. The Lions pretty much probably going to take it. I don't know. I don't know if Minnesota's that tough, or they've kind of surprised everybody. But I will say this about Caleb Williams: when he came out, I was hoping and praying he wasn't good, because if he's good, you and the Commanders had the best offseason in football. If Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels pans out, which Jaden Daniels is on a different level. I think he's the best rookie quarterback this season by far. Caleb Williams has progressed. Like you saw him week 1, didn't look he looked terrible. Week 2, a little bit better. Week 3, a little bit better. He had a good game last week, but it's against the Carolina Panthers. So we got to take that with a little bit of grain of salt.
What's funny is
so far he's looking like he's progressing. So that's good for you guys. Your defense is good as well.
With that, it's like, okay, so Jaden Daniels is looking great, but then how much room do you have to progress? And then is that also real, or is that you told me that 3 takes from this week, and one of them for me was the NFC East sucks. Like I did not think, and Craig, I'm going to toss this your way. Like I did not think you guys were going to be this bad this year, and I think because of that, Washington's seeing a lot of success.
Never mind.
I'm sorry to have taken this show in such a crazy direction. Real quick,
I love it.
Brian, can I just finish up with this this NFC North Bears and this rookie thing? Jordan Love will be, until he proves he's not, between the 12th and 6th best quarterback every year to me. He'll never break top 5. Like I guess, like towards the end of last year, but like I had Trevor Lawrence in top 5 last year because he was top 5. That's how quickly those things can go away.
Yeah,
he was top 5 last year. Like it just I've had Dak Prescott at top 5 at some points, but like he just never does it in the playoffs, kind of thing. But
Dak's a top 5 quarterback.
Right. That's so it's one of those things, but it's such a, if you're being a dick, I think the lowest you could put him is like 12. If you're being like super kind, you can maybe go like 5. I would never put him like top 3.
I'm not going to argue with that, right? From what we've seen, I can't argue with that take at all. And I'm
not saying it to be like smart guy or whatever.
No.
My opinion on Jordan Love overall, because I was reading your face the whole time of just like
and Paul.
Let's calm down about.
I think he's better than what Paul thinks he is. But
I think I'm the one who told Paul that I didn't like him at first to begin with. So, but I think I might have brainwashed Paul a little bit on that one.
Well, Well, I'm interested
And
to hear
then-
about the NFC takeaway, 5 takeaway, or the takeaways this week and the NFC sucking. Let's go back to that. That's a fun conversation for me to have too.
Yeah, Craig, what do you
Okay.
think about all this? Because I mean, your
Give
favorite
us your
teams in that
NFC
division.
East. Yeah.
What do you think is going on there with the Giants? The Eagles,
Well,
in
the
my
Giants are
opinion,
always
have
suck, but
been worse than
the
I
most
thought they
part.
were, and I think because of that, like I said, Washington's taken the opportunity there and just capitalizing on it. I just don't think it's a long-term real thing.
You're wrong
Right.
on that, I believe. By the way, sorry, Jane Daniels. But
All right. Pump the brakes there, Jaden.
the guy has more
Drinking the
touchdown
Jaden
passes
Kool-Aid.
than incompletions. That's insane.
And we talked about
Okay,
It's
but
Pittman
hold on.
insane.
Brian,
I wanna
you
hear
just
Craig
said
talk,
that-
though.
you just said
90
the Panthers don't matter. Jaden Daniels has beaten the Giants, the Bengals,
Right.
the Cardinals, and the
Yeah.
Browns.
Yeah.
How about we calm that
Yeah.
down?
I-
a little bit?
hey,
Pump the brake
Look,
on the Jaden.
you
Daniels.
can't
But,
bl- he
the
didn't-
Panthers
look.
don't matter.
I
You
just
just
said
you just said
I
Caleb
just
Williams
said-
can't judge himself on the Panthers.
I said you can't judge them off the Panthers.
Right, and that
The
was
Panthers, but there's
Right.
five
But
other.
I just named you
there's
4 teams that are
I
just
know,
as bad
but-
as the Panthers, and Jaden
but
Daniels
there's-
is proving that he's good against them.
there's no other team that's on the same level as bad as the Panthers, unless
Giants,
maybe the
And-
Browns.
Yeah.
all he's
Giants are
proving
better
is
than
that
the
he's
and he
not
just and that's
bad.
2 of them.
But you're missing the point. My point was yours was 1 game, and his is 5 games of in the 90
against
percentile.
5 bad teams.
It doesn't matter. 5 games in 1 game. That's a big difference.
Into the
That's
nitty
the
gritty on
difference.
Jaden Daniels, I'm gonna say one thing. Cliff Kingsbury has directly translated his LSU playbook into his playbook,
Right.
and he's limited his plays to about 50 passing plays in the entire playbook. It's not sustainable. Also, his spread chart of his pass completions is about 70%. And you can quote me on this, like you can go back and look at it. His spread flow
You
chart
put any pressure
about
on the
set-
kid, he's going to fold like a cheap 10.
it's about 65% to the right side because the guy cannot progress more than an RPO look right and throw because it's
runs
about
at first-
65%.
and he runs at
and then-
first notice.
And he's 165 pounds actually, not like being a dick. He's actually 165 pounds in the modern NFL. Injuries aside, I'm not going to throw that in there. The on paper sustainability of this team is not high. It's Cliff Kingsbury's offense that he's simplified already. On top of it being against bad teams, the highest spread, and I don't know how much gambling you guys do, but like the highest spread in this
I don't
week in
gamble.
week 6 is -6.5 against the 2-3 Baltimore Ravens against the 4-1 Commanders. Vegas doesn't lose money, and that is the highest predicted just demolishing in the week this week in the NFL. Baltimore is also the best team in football. That's my number 1 ranking. But still, if a 4-1 Commanders team walks in there and gets trounced as the highest spread against Vegas, that's not speaking highly
The
of Jaden
best
Daniels.
team in the NFC East is the Cowboys. The question is just, does it pan out over the course of the season? Do they actually regain control of that division?
Okay, so you asked me if it surprised me. The answer is no, because I called the Eagles implosion at the end of last year. Something happened in that locker room, and that head coach
is
lost the
terrible.
locker room. The quarterback was, there's rumors of the quarterback getting knocked out in the tunnel by one of the wide receivers before, deal. That team's in shambles. The Giants are terrible, and the Cowboys are injured and one-dimensional at one of the most important positions in football in the running back. Why you have Dalvin Cook sitting on your practice squad, he is clearly not worse than anything you have in your backfield right now. So at least put him in the backfield and give him a shot to see if he has anything left in the tank. Now, I don't know. Maybe they're seeing something in practice that shows he is worse than what is in the backfield. I don't know. I'm not at the Dallas Cowboys facility watching practice, and they won't show us in an NFL football game what Dalvin Cook looks like. But the Dallas Cowboys are ravished on defense. You have neither pass rusher. You have a cornerback in Caleb Carson who played well against, I guess, a bad Browns team. So we really don't know if he's any good. But he's hurt. Trayvon Diggs is, milking an ankle. You just lost 2 more guys. on Sunday night. Yeah, they're putting a defense out there that is toothpicks and bubble gum, and they're going to play two of the best teams in football and probably get run out of the building the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's going to hurt, but they do catch the 49ers without, the running back. So that helps a little bit. But, I mean, you're not stopping either one of those offenses with that defense they have. They have to hope that Parsons' ankle heals and he plays one or both of those games because the other guys are on injured reserve. Now Brandon Cooks is on injured reserve, so they're going to miss the next 4 games. You just didn't see the injuries coming for Dallas. But the other teams, and then Washington is played like Dave said, they've played the weakest part of their schedule. They're going to have to play a lot better football on the back half when they start playing the Lions, when they start playing, the 49ers, when they start playing the teams like that. And we'll see what Dallas's defense is. Dallas doesn't play them till the back half of the year, so they should have a lot of their defense back. So, head to head, they've always played Washington well. Plus, they know, the defense that Quinn's going to play because they ran it for years. So, I don't know. I think the Giants are what they thought they were, and I think the Eagles are what I thought they were. Washington has been better, and Dallas has been hurt and has no running game.
It's crazy because Dak is definitely a top 5 quarterback. I don't think you can put him below it, but
He's not.
he is. You got to look at the numbers. Now, does he win in the playoffs? No, he chokes. But your team has done this guy no favors. You say you're
Dak
all
doesn't
in.
Give up. Dak doesn't give up 40.
You got no running game for him. Your offensive line hasn't been all that great in my opinion.
And that's expected.
You have
3 brand new offensive linemen.
Yeah,
football.
You have CeeDee Lamb. That's your only wide receiver. Tolbert has been okay, but y'all say Cooks is out. Yeah, but you don't throw him the ball anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Right. Your tight end's pretty good too, but you've done this guy you've done Dak Prescott no favors whatsoever.
And I think they need to get the kid that returns kicks.
Turpin? Tolbert.
Turpin. I think they need to get Turpin. I think they need to get Turpin more reps and throw him the football and see what he can do. But we'll see.
I want to argue that Dak is a top 5 quarterback.
Please don't make me argue in Dak's favor because I don't want to.
No,
real quick. I summarize it really well, though.
No, just one sentence. I think there's 5 quarterbacks.
Hold on, real quick.
5
Ryan
quarterbacks.
Sims, I hope you're listening because
he is.
5 quarterbacks in the AFC alone that are better than any NFC quarterback. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, but I've been telling you that point for fucking months.
Because it's true.
Sorry, I keep
there's
swearing.
top 4 that are easy. Mahomes, Allen, Jackson,
Mahomes is better than it.
Okay, so who? CJ Stroud over Dak? Like there was conversations of Tua and Dak being swapped. Like
no, Tua's
that
not
number
better
5
than Dak.
spot.
Can't stay on the field.
Lamar Jackson is not better than Dak Prescott. I'm not taking Lamar over Dak Prescott.
This is my argument too. This has been my argument for months.
Okay.
I don't understand why any quarterback resigns in the AFC period when if you want a chance at a Super Bowl, if you're Lamar Jackson, you should have just taken that. I don't know who failed that trade. Was it Atlanta or was it Baltimore? If Lamar Jackson was in Atlanta, he'd probably be in the NFC Championship the last 5 years consistently or 5 years of whatever.
He choked in the playoffs.
You just said Dak doesn't even win in the playoffs.
Yeah, so that's
I know he doesn't.
But
because
it's
Josh
not.
Allen,
but that doesn't make Lamar better than him if he doesn't win. If they both don't win in the playoffs, that doesn't make.
Paul's right though. It
doesn't make
a
Lamar
healthy
better.
Joe Burrow. It's
Joe
Patrick
Burrow's,
Mahomes.
but yeah, better. Yeah,
healthy Joe Burrow because
yes.
I think I predicted the Bengals' absolute catastrophe this year just because I knew he needed another year to sit out. I just didn't understand why they forced him out there. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and CJ Stroud are 5 quarterbacks just in the AFC and the top that are better than Dak Prescott. While I like Dak Prescott,
had one good year.
My analogy for Dak Prescott is he is our generation's Philip Rivers.
So Brian, even if that number 5 spot is interchangeable, to just anoint Dak Prescott as the 5th best quarterback, to my opinion, is not.
You can't.
Because you can
CJ
make
Stroud's
arguments
good,
for
but
him, you can make arguments for other guys.
1 year, you cannot put him above Dak
Prescott's
Prescott.
never won less than 10 games.
I understand this, guys, but like
I'm a
just
fan.
saying,
I'm with you guys more than I'm
He was
against.
literally statistically the MVP in football last year, and they
He
gave it
should
to
have been
Lamar
MVP
Jackson.
last year, and they gave it to Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And
I'm a
I don't
fan of
like
Prescott way more.
arguing for Dak and the Cowboys, but Dak Prescott to me is top 5, and he may not win the
Cowboys-
playoffs. That's
Cowboys' biggest
that's a whole
problem,
different
and
conversation.
it's one name, and it's Jerry Jones, and it's like that's
100%.
such a short list of like what the Cowboys' problems. Like any decent owner / GM / whatever his titles are, like the
Would have
7
been
other titles he's
fired
given
years
himself.
ago for-
This team would be in such better shape financially, contract structure wise. Like, just I mean, you can't. I'm sorry, Craig, you just can't keep all 3 of those
No.
players. You just can't. Like, you needed
No.
to trade
I
one
think-
of them and
I
gotten
think they
like a
handcuffed
king's
themselves
ransom
to lose. I think they handcuffed themselves now to lose.
the next 10
Parsons.
years, 5 years.
Jerry Jones, for being the smart businessman, does business in football retarded.
He waited too long on Dak.
Yep,
He could
on
have gotten
everybody.
Dak. He
And-
could have gotten Dak for a whole lot cheaper 2 years ago,
Yep.
and he
Could have
didn't.
gotten CD a lot
CD,
He
cheaper.
could have got
Could've
CD
gotten-
cheaper. He could have done Parsons already.
You would have
He
had
of all
money
those-
to go get Derrick Henry, which we didn't have no money. And well, if you made your contracts better with your players and did them earlier than later, you would have.
And
So that's
also,
not an
if you and
excuse.
out of those 3 guys, the guy that you absolutely should pay to a contract
Right,
is Micah
it might be
Parsons.
the
He
guy
did it
you lose.
completely backwards.
Right,
He did it completely backwards. It should have gone Parsons, Dak, CD,
right.
Mm,
and then he did CD, Dak, Parsons.
you got to lock your quarterback up if you think he's the guy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But I
But-
mean, I think Micah Parsons is the best defensive player in football for the next 5 years, and that contract is significantly less scary than a Dak Prescott contract. The worst case scenario you have to do is give Dak Prescott $1 more or whatever than Nick Bosa, and the Niners are not hurting on that contract. It's a $40 million contract. That's way less scary than the $68 million guaranteed that you give Dak Prescott to one guy if he gets hurt or whatever. Like Micah Parsons, if he's hurt for 1 year on $40 million a year, you can still bubble gum and stick that defense for a year and then have Micah Parsons come back the next year and still be the best player in football. And you want to talk about Dak getting an MVP? Micah Parsons probably should have 2 defensive MVPs. It's like the Michael Jordan rule. He could win that reward every year as long as he's on the field, but he's just not gonna, because if he doesn't have the insane amount of stats, then it's gonna go to whoever had the best
My only
year.
problem with Parsons is every year he's run out of gas in the
Mhm.
last few weeks in the playoff. He isn't
There's a
the
lot of
same
talking, too.
guy in week 16
Sounds like a
and
lot of
17.
Sounds like there's
Cowboy fans.
something in the water in Dallas then, because they suck the last 4 weeks of every season.
Right.
And so I guess I'm learning why when we see these quarterback conversations happen, you always see tears.
Yeah.
Because I would imagine that, like, okay, yes, Dak Prescott has the opportunity to be the 5th best quarterback. So do a lot of other guys, right? He's in tier B, not tier A. I guess that's just kind of
He's in tier
What it
2.
is.
It's
tier
like
2,
Patrick
exactly.
Mahomes tier 1, and then tier 2 starts. However you want to put it. But
Yeah.
well, one of my takeaways from week 5 is NFC North is the toughest division in the NFL. And we have not one team in our division that's got a losing record. You got the Vikings who are 5-0. You got the Lions who are arguably top 5 team in the NFL. You got whatever the Packers may be, and the Bears are promising with a good defense. I think this NFC North is a lot better than a lot of people thought it was going to be. And the Lions are a good football team. And I rooted after the Packers lost last year. I was like, all right, if the Lions win, I wouldn't hated it because they've been bad for so long. But they thought they were going to run away with this division for a long time, but the other teams are like, hold on. I think the Vikings are kind of a fluke, but I think the Bears and Packers will be pretty good for the foreseeable future, especially if Caleb Williams pans out. But
we're currently
And Jordan Love.
undefeated. We're currently undefeated in our division.
yeah,
'Cause we haven't
y'all
played one
play us
division
really
game.
late.
I
y'all
think that's
play
why
us
we're ahead of you
really
in the
late
standings. I
last
believe
year.
you guys have one divisional loss, whereas we haven't even played one game yet. So
Yeah.
we're
Holy
undefeated.
shut up. We're gonna go 0-6 in the division. this
Probably,
year.
probably, right? So the worst thing
Shut
that
your ass
happened
up.
to the Bears in the NFC North is the fact that the Vikings are 5-0. Like we were all banking on these guys to be the worst team in the division.
We
so that
talked
could
about it,
be
Paul,
third
yeah.
or second, yeah, and that's happened
think-
completely the opposite way. So it's rough. It is a tough division, and so like I go back to this, like we're all very talented teams and everything like that, but even in the offseason, I asked, well, who's got the worst coaching staff? I believe it's the Bears. And
Yeah.
so at the end of the day, that might be the one detail that kind of separates all these teams a little bit because, yeah, you're right. The Vikings kind of are a fluke, but hey, man.
Can I comment on that real quick, though?
Yeah,
The
do
only
it.
thing fluky about them is Sam Darnold. That's the only thing fluky about them.
Right.
Because
Well,
they have two
well,
head
their
coaches.
coaching
They
is
have two
winning their
head coaches.
games.
No, they have two head coaches on their staff.
It's just their defense. I
Flores-
didn't see this turnaround in the defense because that's been their biggest fall recently. And then all of a sudden this year, I know they get Brian Flores, but all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, this defense is taking a complete
But
180.
even last year, going back and you see schematically, like the fluky things about the Vikings are the insane amount of bad luck they've had in their draft and in their offseason pool.
Injuries.
Whatever
and-
the hell. I mean, a literal death in their draft. And then, but that's not fluky though, because if you go back to last year, you go look at the Vikings, they overperformed on defense and they had a absolute madman schematically with Brian Flores, and they had a like catastrophic lack of talent on that defense. And now you see like what a slight upgrade in talent on that defense is going to be. I'm terrified of them moving forward if Brian Flores doesn't want to go try again at head coaching, because Kevin O'Connell, if he gets slightly more consistent quarterback play out of JJ McCarthy next year, and he's just a more consistent Sam
He
Darnold,
won't.
I don't even think you need explosive. I don't know. We don't know. I mean, we're talking about these rookie quarterbacks. We have no idea what they're capable of.
that's
I
my
don't think
take
JJ
is that
McCarthy's
he won't
good
make
either.
it. I don't think
I
he's
mean,
gonna make it,
I
so.
agree generally speaking, but I mean, I don't think anybody saw Sam Darnold coming either, and he's the MVP of the league right now. So I'm just saying the only thing fluky about them necessarily is bad draft luck and a quarterback reclamation project. Like if JJ McCarthy is decent, or if another quarterback wants to go there, this is what I'm talking about, man. Like if you take any AFC top tier quarterback, you transpose them on the Vikings. Vikings are probably the favorite in the NFC, period.
You know, his success this season, I don't know how they don't re-sign Darnold next year and have JJ McCarthy kind of sit if they're going to sit him, because he's had
Sam
success
Darnold will
and
get $40 million after a season like this
Yeah,
somewhere
no,
else.
And
I don't know.
yeah, I don't know if they're going to pay him, but we'll see. It's kind of like that. It's like Romo said, are the older veteran quarterbacks that the game kind of slows down for him. I think that's kind of what Sam Darnold is he's had plenty of years in the NFL. It's kind of slowed down for him. And he's got he's got the best wide receiver in football to throw the ball to.
Cleveland's
I did not
gonna have
see them
Deshaun Watson
5-0.
assassinated and sign Sam Darnold. Like that's what's gonna happen.
Sam Darnold's not about to win you a Super Bowl.
No.
I really don't think so. So
No.
you're gonna.
I agree.
And that's why I thought the Vikings were going to be the worst team in our division. But
Yeah, but like we look, I remember the Patriots. They didn't have one first round on their offensive line, yet their offensive line was just fine, right? I look and they're drafting at the back end of the draft every year. Hell, they're even trading back. Their first pick isn't until the second or third round some years, and it's fine. Sometimes it's not the talent; it's the position you put. Everybody's talented. It's the NFL. It's the
Right.
position you put these guys in to have success, and that falls on coaching. So there is guys out there that can overcome bad coaching and things like that. You can never overcome bad talent, in my opinion. And so at the end of the day, everyone's pretty good in this league, and the Vikings are using their guys right. That's why Sam Darnold looks the way he's looking right now. I don't think it's going to be something that takes you over the top. But they're coaching.
He has a month to make decisions back there. I mean, he's picking and choosing who he
Yeah,
wants to
during-
throw the ball to.
That's what Craig's saying. During the game broadcast, they just said they're the only offensive line in the NFL where every single member was drafted by that team.
Right.
That's like unheard of. All
Yeah,
five starters are drafted by that homegrown talent team. Like that's not possible. And that's why it's just chemistry. It's time. It's great coaching. They know what they're looking for. They take this guy, and just like the Patriots and what Paulie said, that was the Patriot way. You don't need to be the best at everything, but the things that we do well, the 2 or 3 things, you better be excellent at them. And that's what the Vikings are doing.
Yeah, that's why the San Francisco 49ers have success with Brock Purdy. That's why the Patriots. Tom Brady was a 7th-round pick. Like when you have a lot going on around you that's right, it's a lot easier, right? And
Right.
so Sam Darnold's not a bad quarterback by any means. He's probably in the best situation of his career right now, though. So yeah, it's rough because you know, I don't know. For us as Bears fans, like we're looking at it as so are we just wasting our time here because we could upgrade in the coaching area? And me and David both wish they would have,
You should
because
have last
these
year, I
other
think, but
staffs, yeah, like LaFleur. I don't like Campbell so much, but I love Ben Johnson, Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings. Like these are all legitimate, very well run organizations right now, and we had to replace both an offensive and defensive coordinator last year, and we're looking at it like, oh, it's supposed to be fine. Like I don't know. To me, it's just I really wish things would have gone a little bit different. And yeah, I think the Bears are going to have to depend on Caleb being good enough to overcome that stuff if they're going to have success, because I don't think they're necessarily going to do them many favors like the Vikings would have for JJ McCarthy. David actually said that to me the other day. He's like, you want to get scared? Remember, they got a quarterback here that's supposed to be here for the next 10 years. Imagine what that's going to look like once they have him. And then, yeah, that might be the stuff that puts you a little bit over the top. But yeah, I mean, they're playing well. They're doing well.
unfortunately. All right, Craig.
Brian, I do want
what's
to
the?
I do want to hear your points. Can I give you one point that I thought of, like the takeaways from the week?
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
give you
Go
one
ahead.
just quick one comment.
No, you're good.
There will never ever be an 0-17 in football ever again.
Oh,
I
and
thought there
That's
was
my
going to
take.
be 2 of them this year, and they, so I think you're right.
It's never going to
Yeah.
happen ever again. That's just a funny little takeaway I had from the league this year.
yeah, this year's been, and we say this kind of every year. It's been wacky, and then you look at we'll say the same thing next year. All these things we try and sit here and predict on the show, and it's like complete opposite. And you're going, well, this is
Yeah.
why we love football. Craig, what's the takeaway you took away from week 5?
That we can halt the apology train through Buffalo, um, because as they started out real well, they've looked very mediocre, and he struggled to get the ball to these new guys, and didn't look as well as over the last 2 weeks when he started to play some
Some
better
legit, yeah.
defenses, and you know probably should have left that football game as his head bounced off the turf and he was unconscious for a few minutes.
He looked like Tua there for a second.
Yeah, there's zero chance he should have been back in that football game. So I think that division is wide open, and where we thought Buffalo, I think Buffalo's closer to what we thought they were than what they showed the first few weeks.
Yeah, because me and Craig were like, this is the year they implode. He's got no wide receivers, and then he comes out on fire, Josh Allen, and I'm like, well, let's see. But I agree. I don't think the verdict's out just yet, but he looked bad against the Ravens, and they didn't even take him into the blue tent to check him. They weren't even going to take him to concussion protocol, and they called down and said, hey, get him to the tent, you idiots.
Yeah,
Like he was
and then he
unconscious on the
saw Mitch
ground.
Trubisky go in the game, and he's like, no,
Yeah,
get me out of this tent.
Give me.
Yeah, and
That was
and
crazy.
they run the football once with Trubisky, and he comes running back on the field.
I got takeaway is the Steelers need to see what Russell Wilson has, because Justin Fields is not good at quarterback, and I think if Justin Fields is a better quarterback, then they beat the Cowboys the other night. If their defense allows more than 20 points in a game, Justin Fields is 2-28. That is terrible. He's not consistent. He's a little more accurate, and I think that's probably due to coaching and making him feel a little more comfortable this season than he was in Chicago. But if they're just sitting Russell because they haven't lost too many games with Justin Fields, I think they're pretenders. I think it's just a matter of time before they start going downhill, and they need to see what Russell Wilson has, because, like I said, they beat Dallas the other night. Dallas, and I don't know what y'all's take, and Craig and Ryan was waiting for this debate, because Ryan and a lot of people in the Metroplex here were thinking this was such a heroic win. I'm like, what? Dak Prescott had 2 terrible interceptions, a fumble. If he doesn't dive on the football, and when they fumbled it at the 1-yard line, you don't win that football game. There was a lot that Justin Fields left on the table, and I don't think you win this game if he plays better. But
Well,
I don't
I
know.
think
Hang the
it was
hat
a big
on this
win
win.
from
I'm
the
like,
standpoint of your medical list is longer than your starter list, and so right now you didn't think if you lose Lawrence and you lose Parsons and you lose um, Cooks and all these guys, you against a very good defensive team in Pittsburgh with a 2.5 hour delay, of deal, you just didn't know what to expect. But yeah, I mean Dak makes some throws that are questionable at times, but he also comes back
on that
and
drive, the final
you
drive
know
was impressive, but
right.
I was like, where was this the whole game? What do we? I mean, I don't know. If it wins, a win, but to
Yeah,
me, it wasn't that
yeah. I mean, the true
win
test
you hang
right
your
now
hat
is
on
going to
and
be
say,
the true test to tell you where you stand is going to be the next 2 weeks against if they can keep either game, even if they lose, if they can keep both games close, then that'll be impressive with the injuries they have.
Dave, what is your take on Justin Fields? Because I know I don't know what you thought about him when you had him, or I mean, do you like him
I've
as a
always been
quarterback?
super realistic. I've always been super realistic with Justin Fields. It was just like it was a good time to move on. I didn't want to waste any more time proving his mediocrity. I think he's just slightly better Daniel Jones. Like, I mean, I always looked at him like that. Like, good, decent, better speed, slightly better arm in terms of processing speed. I mean, I see the exact same stuff in Chicago. And I remember everybody just making excuses for him while he was here. And at one point, they were like, well, wait till you see him behind a better line or with better receivers. And I was like, what if this is just who this guy is?
Yeah,
I was like, what if he's just going to always get sacked, hold onto the ball slightly too long, miss open
Nope.
guys, never get to second reads, be
When you
really
got him
fast?
DJ Moore, I thought maybe that would help, and when it didn't, I'm like, okay,
well, and that's the
I
thing
mean,
too.
the Darnell Mooney, the Darnell Mooney's really the end of the sentence right there, right? Like, oh, he had no weapons here forever, and now Darnell Mooney has 130 yards and 2 touchdowns with Kirk Cousins, for Christ's sake. I mean,
Yeah,
right,
this is like end of the story right there. So, I think I feel bad for Pittsburgh because I've always loved Mike Tomlin. It's been always like a wet dream of mine, just like somehow Mike Tomlin quits and joins the Bears.
right.
But I feel bad for them because they just deserve a slightly better quarterback to just go 10 wins every season, and it's like all they're ever missing, and I don't know how they always just miss it by this much. So I feel bad for him, and Justin Fields is just another example. I sure hope they're not foolish enough to pay him $40 to $45 million for the next 3 years.
they would
I don't
be
think they will be, but
stupid.
that's
And
what
like I
Justin Fields
said,
is worth. I mean,
if
he's
if
$40 million quarterback.
like I said, I don't know if they're holding Russell Wilson. Is he still injured? What are they doing? But you got
Um,
to see what you have in him, I think, and I don't think you have much if you're looking at what he did with the Denver Broncos and how bad he was there, but and how quick he fell off. But
I'm not too worried about their situation personally because um, Russell Wilson, he's shown throughout his career he is clutch. He can win you a game. He can win you a game in the playoffs. He's won Super Bowls. He's got some kind of resume, right? So if they're what they're not doing absolutely terrible with Justin Fields. So yeah, give Russell time, get healthy, and then come in here and ride this ship out at the end. I mean, that's something that Russell can do. To survive a whole season's rough, and yeah, Fields isn't it, but they've been able to win with him a little bit, right? So I don't know. They're in a very weird situation. I mean, that's why they traded a sixth round pick for him at the end of the
yeah,
day, right? So, what are your expectations from a quarterback that you traded a sixth round pick for? Well, I mean, they got a couple wins. It's not bad. So the result of that has been, I don't know, their value that they got in return has probably been adequate. And we as Bears fans, we've seen Justin Fields for a long time. We know that his biggest problem is consistency. He's a very flashy player. I would feel much better about him being in a situation where he's like the backup to Lamar Jackson. If you needed him for a game, even in the playoffs, like he could come in and win you a game. Is he going to do it every week? No, he's not. So I don't
yeah.
know.
He got hit pretty good. They had to take him out for a play and check him for concussion, and
And-
the backup throws a 19-yard dart down the field. I was like, keep him in. Let's see what he's got.
I
And
was
they
gonna
just
say,
goes back in. I'm like,
if I'm not mistaken, Russell Wilson had 27 touchdowns, 9 interceptions last season with Denver, and that was on Denver. If that's what you get for like 8 games, let's cut that in half and give you 14 and 5. Pittsburgh's in a much better situation with Russell Wilson than they are with Justin Fields.
Yeah, and they're asking him to do a lot less. I mean, at the point where he is in his career, to be able to play half a season, I mean, I don't know.
And
You
that
guys like
defense.
taking half days at work? Like, it's nice. It's
Yeah,
nice.
Justin's
you
getting
know?
you 17 points per game. Russell Wilson's probably getting you 23. So I mean, it's an upgrade.
It's the cheapest quarterback room in football, though.
yeah.
Good for them. They played it right. I
Right.
think it's just unfortunate.
You got any more takeaways, Craig, from this week?
I mean, I think we've covered a lot of them. I mean,
Yeah, we
Dallas,
covered.
is injured, and maybe you might want to look at San Francisco and see, is McCaffrey really the oil that makes that thing run? Because to lose to Arizona the way they did, that's a painful loss. That division is kind of all stacked together when I thought the 49ers would kind of run away and hide. So, I mean, maybe it's McCaffrey, but
They're kind of annoying team because, like, yeah, they do good most every year, and they're struggling a little bit now. And look, the Cardinals are division team, but in the playoffs they're going to turn it on and they'll be in the
yeah,
NFC
but I mean, they
Championship
had a
game again. You're
double-digit
going,
lead in the fourth quarter, and they lose it to Arizona. I mean,
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Was Christian McCaffrey ever really the thing that made that thing run? Like we knew
Yeah, I
he
didn't
was the
think so.
sprinkles on top, but like the year
That's
before
what
he
I
got
thought,
there,
yeah.
Raheem Mostert. I remember
Right.
Raheem Mostert was the best
they
back
can
in football. that
throw
season,
anybody
so it's
back
kinda
there
like,
and they get 200 yards. You're like, what in the world?
But when I mean, the offense just seems to have something missing this year that it, and I don't know, maybe they're figuring out Brock Purdy. I don't know. I haven't watched a full 49ers game. I'm watching, the red zone and getting bits and pieces of it.
this is also part of my wet dream fantasies. I think the way that the NFL works, and the only time NFL coaches are really let go is like really bad, or the Niners. It's stagnation,
right.
and these teams just get
Harbaugh
sick.
Harbaugh goes to
They
two
almost get
NFC
sick of each
championship.
other.
Right.
Like this. I think the Niners. I think there's like you talked about the Jets having bad chemistry. I want to say I think the Niners are starting to exhibit some signs of like bad chemistry, and I think everybody's just kind of sick of seeing each other and not succeed. Like you put one Super Bowl on that team, I think you're talking about a team that's probably a lot better in the next like 6 years. But I think them just like I was joking with
I wouldn't
Paulie
be
last
shocked
year.
if Kyle Shanahan was let go.
I know, and then he like
you know.
joins the Bears next year. Wouldn't it be fucking crazy? Like that.
Caleb
All right,
Williams
so
would be.
let's calm down there.
Williams would be. Caleb Williams would be the happiest guy in the room.
Well, but
yeah, no.
What's
it's
happening?
that point. It's that point where, yeah, you're succeeding, but it's like we're obviously missing something to get over the hump, and I think the Falcons held on to their team too long and tried to make it back to the Super Bowl. I'm thinking of a different team too that is just the Bills. I'm like, you're holding on a little bit too long, and at some point I thought this was the year they're going to blow it up with the head coach. And that could happen to Shanahan. I don't think that will, but that would be kind of interesting. But they're in the NFC Championship game almost every year.
But you wouldn't be shocked, which is
they don't
part of
go.
the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing. It's like the Eagles. Doug Peterson wins one. 3 years later, he's fired.
Yeah.
Right.
Doug Peterson wouldn't have came back and won that game Sunday. He'd have been joining Robert Saleh.
He's not a good coach. He's not a good coach. What's happening in San Francisco is the window's starting to close. You gambled a lot. Like the Rams did it too, but they won one. As long as you win one, it's okay. Their shot was last year, man.
Right.
They overtime in the Super Bowl. That's what Christian McCaffrey's here for. Sure, you could put anybody in there and get 200 yards during the regular season when it matters most. Who showed up in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey. That's why you got him here. But you still couldn't do it. That's what's going to hurt him the most. So now this window's going to close. You're going to have to retool, rebuild this thing. It's going to take some time, and a lot of organizations get frustrated. However, he is a good damn coach.
Well,
if I was them, I would
Brock
stick
Purdy,
it out with him through all of it. But
I would too, honestly. He's a daggum good
I
coach.
agree, but it's part of my thing too. Is that, and then you read these offseason reports about the ownership groups in San Francisco getting very frustrated with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan about how much money they keep insisting they need to spend, right? And they're like, no, but we need to pay. If you look at it, and they showed this, I think in week 1 or week 2, I was watching a game where they showed each position and what ranking they are paying that player position group. It was just like first, second, first, first, second, first, and that's just like not sustainable.
Well, that's what I'm
You know,
saying. They
even last
gambled.
night I was
They
joking
went all
with,
in.
They joked, yeah. But I was joking with Paulie, like these guys went to like 3 out of 4 Super Bowls, if I'm not mistaken. Almost 4, like 5 NFC championships. Guys, if we're as Bears fans in Buffalo in the 90s, if you went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost, you'd have to move the team. Chicago wouldn't have to, like, the fans wouldn't tolerate. Like, you'd get so frustrated,
This
you'd have
city
to
would
move
burn
the team.
down.
Luckily, yeah, the city would burn. But like, it's San Francisco. You can kind of get away with it for a lot of reasons. It's beautiful. It's California. We're still San Francisco. We're
The
still
baseball
the
team
Niners,
was
for
winning.
God's sakes. But they're also still the Niners, right? Like, they have so much to fall back on for being the Niners. And it's just this like professional organization. It's kind of the Cowboys way almost too, Craig. I think they're riding their coattails a little too hard, just like the Bears are.
The 90s.
Oh, the Bears, we have 85 Bears celebrations every year. It's idiotic. And like, so
that's funny,
I think
Brian.
the
You think
Niners,
that's funny? No.
That
Still
is
a
funny.
skit on Saturday night.
Yeah, no, Rex Grossman and Aaron Rodgers have the same amount of Super Bowl appearances, but
Right.
Oh yeah,
no,
and now look,
I know it's not a. It's
I
not.
can't-
we can't do it. We can't do
Dave,
it. We know, Brian.
yeah,
We can't
no,
do
we
it.
know, we
We're just fucking with
We
it. We
joke.
can't. We
Yeah.
can't.
no, well, Dave, I'm a very realistic fan. I'm not a Aaron Rodgers lover or whatever you want to call it. At the end of his career,
we call it being a homer, but
homer,
call it
whatever.
everyone.
At the end of his career, he cost us chances to go to the Super Bowl. He cost us NFC Championship games. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Aaron Rodgers did everything. No, he cost us some games.
All right, I'm not going to pity party you here. Like, I'd take 10 years of Aaron Rodgers. Let's
you
call
guys
it
cost
here,
him
right?
too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was gonna say,
Oh no!
as being
one of the
being
best
a
quarterbacks
very
of all time.
Yeah.
as being a
We're
very
Allen
rel-
Hall of Famer.
It was so hard, guys. You have no idea how hard it was on me.
No,
With that guy.
It was great, and it was great. It was a great time, but I'm just saying it. I will
No,
say that
we
he
get
cost
it.
us some too.
but
But
that's why we're
anyways.
literally hoping, like right now as Bears fans, and that's why we can go back on the Bears if you want to. But like we
Not
said,
really, but-
how mad we are about this coaching staff not being changed over, and we're hoping for an Aaron Rodgers, Joe Philbin type situation, where Aaron Rodgers is overcoming Joe Philbin
and
as opposed
Mike
to-
McCarthy. Like that's what
and
Craig's
Mike
hoping for
McCarthy.
with Dak Prescott.
Yeah, he dragged Mike
Like
McCarthy
Dak
to the
Prescott
Super
has
Bowl.
to just
That's what we're hoping
overcome
for.
the hurdles of Mike
Right.
McCarthy.
Oh, and Jerry Jones. He's got 2 hurdles.
It's the only way. Yeah.
You say Jerry Jones says all in. Well, the 49ers are all in, and Jerry Jones just said it so people would turn on the TV. I mean, that's the difference.
Because in his mind, he goes like, "Me and the Niners, we're the same."
Yeah, you're not on the same. Yeah.
Like you're not even in the same.
We're the
ballpark.
same as the Chiefs. Not even close to being
Yeah.
as good as
Because
the
he
Chiefs.
still
convinced
has-
himself
He
that,
still
though.
has one less Super Bowl than Pittsburgh, and I mean, he's living in the past, and he wants
bathes in Johnny
all
Walker
he
Blue.
wants is he wants to win one without Jimmy Johnson say he did it. He'll walk away at that point in time and go away into the sunset and turn things over. But the problem is,
His
35 years
his-
later.
but the problem is he's turning the organization over to Steven, who's
He's
him.
not any better.
So
Cat
until
boy.
they sell the team, it's never.
Well, you know
Never
what's
gonna-
crazy, Craig? Because we talked about the Dalvin Cook thing, and I heard McCarthy on 105.3 The Fan. They asked him straight up about Dalvin Cook, and he said, Julio says this is our year. He said, the other running backs haven't done anything to lose their spot. I'm like, but he's still better than what you got.
You mean not have 100 yards in 5 games?
Yeah, Dak. I mean, what has Zeke Elliott done? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I don't
Terrible.
think Ezekiel Elliott has 20 carries this year.
Yeah, and your head coach was mad because they didn't go get Zeke earlier. That's how delusional.
And
It's
I
like-
Coach
actually,
McCarthy
I
is.
want to
It's like
bring
the
this
guy
up
who has
earlier.
a car that starts
And-
with like the magic turn and you pound
and-
it like 3 times and then it starts.
When you
It's like,
should have
dude,
used Zeke the
Car works
most
just
on
fine.
the 1 yard line, you use Dowdle and you fumble
He
the
fumbled the
football
ball.
and you almost lose the game.
Yeah, absolutely maddening.
Yeah, and like, it was interesting. I was on vacation for the last 2 weeks, so I got to kind of take a step back and look at it like a little bit unplugged, not into it every week, and just kind of get a broader view. And it's just, the conclusion I've come up with. It's like what what the Rams did. The Rams really they won a Super Bowl because the Bengals happened to knock the Chiefs out that year. That's the Chiefs' kryptonite is the Bengals. And then the Bengals are a much more beatable team. But you saw how they had to gamble and go all in. The 49ers, same thing, gamble, go all in just to try and beat this guy. Meanwhile, Brian, earlier in the show, you were saying that the Chiefs are not good this year. And they're still 5-0.
Yeah.
We have the
Yeah.
best quarterback in the league paired up with a really damn good coach.
Mhm.
And we're kind of, and it's
referees making very questionable.
Yeah, the
calls
referees
it's
are
everybody against
absolutely
them,
crazy.
guys. They were not that good last year either.
Yeah, we said that last year. They're not that good. They're not going to win.
No.
Go on and win it, and it's maddening. It's
It's
and
a
look,
nightmare.
he hasn't been that
They're
good.
still
This
the best
that
team.
great this
They
year.
just get
But
they and I guess back-to-back Super Bowl champions can get those calls.
yeah, but
well, let's you said best teams. It's an hour and 20 minutes into the show, which
sorry,
is fantastic.
Yeah, we got to.
No, you're good.
Get out of here, though.
Let's do our top 5 power rankings real quick, if you guys have time for that.
yeah, I wrote mine down at the beginning. So
All right. Well, then we'll start with you, Dave. So let's go 5 to 1. Who do we got? Who's your number 5?
5. It was hard. I was honestly hard to get 5 in. I have no idea. It's such a log jam. I got like a 3-way tie, I guess, but I'll give you the top 2. Vikings because they're proving it, and San Fran for like the opposite reasons. I just believe that at the end of the year they're going to still be there and they get healthy. I don't feel good about 5 at all. I feel good about 4 through 1.
Gotcha. Greg, who's your number 5 team?
Yeah, Minnesota, with what they struggled against, I understand the Jets are good defensively. I understand they had to go to the other side of the world to play football, but they looked like a much more beatable, down to earth team, like we kind of thought they would be. But they're still 5-0, so you still got to give them their credit. They've played who's in front of them. They've won all the games. Darnold right now is the leader in the MVP, which I don't understand that those words would ever come out of my mouth.
Give me that bet at the beginning of the year.
If somebody bet that, they are
Gonna be
just
rich.
trying to get to week
They
18.
need to call the hotline that they call.
Yeah, you'd
at
be
the
inviting
beginning of
us to
every
your studio.
advertisement.
Paul, yeah, right. Paul, who do you got at 5?
I'll still take Tampa. I still think the arrow's pointing up. I like the division. I think they made it far into the playoffs last year. I think Mayfield's in a really good spot, and I
And they
think
should have won
they're
that game
underrated.
last week.
Yeah, I'll take Tampa
They-
at 5.
I got the Texans at 5. Good defense. I think CJ Stroud hasn't been as good as he was last year. The book's out on him. He's having to play a little bit through the tape, the sophomore slump, but he's still playing good, and they're still winning football games. So I got Texans at 5. Dave, who you got at 4?
Yeah, I was gonna say my 4 are just the most complete teams. So 4, I got Houston for the same reasons you did. I just think they're complete. CJ Stroud's not gonna be bad. He's not maybe gonna be like MVP caliber. Maybe at some points he will be, but they still have good receivers, good running backs, good offensive line, solid defense. One part of their defense is exceptional, and it's like defensive end play. And I think you need like one part of your defense to be exceptional in the playoffs to make a difference. And their cornerbacks are super solid, and they have an elite coach, and they have an elite coach. So yeah, they're super complete.
Greg, who's your number 4, bud?
The same with the Texans. I just I like that move to hire that coach when they hired him. I thought it was a great hire. I liked what he did in San Francisco, and I did not think this was kind of more the version of Stroud that I thought you would see. But he's still not, he's still not like get him out of there bad. Like he's still very serviceable, and I mean he gets it done in overtime and gets them the win, and that's a huge win for him. So yeah, I get and that defense is just brutal.
Yeah. All right, Paul. Number 4.
Yeah, number 4. I mean, I'm going to jump on the wagon, Houston. So, for the reasons you guys both
All
said,
right.
I don't really have anything to add.
My number 4 is the Ravens. Good defense. They played a good game against the Bengals. That was a shootout. The Bengals should have won that game. They
Bengals
found a
just
way.
find ways to lose
They
games.
found a way to lose it. Um, they're good. I mean, Lamar's playing really good right now. Defense is really good. I got the Ravens there. Dave, number 3.
3, I think Detroit still deserves to be top 5 and top 3. I think they are winning in the weakest part of their season. If I'm being honest, I don't think they're gonna get worse than this. Everything is the same and consistent. I don't think what makes them good are things that are flash in the pan and then drop off. I think it's going to be the same type of team every week. And those type of teams beat up on teams. And at the end of the season, those teams are probably going to be, unless they're just like tired by the end of the season because they've been playing so many games over the last like 2-3 years and like playoffs and playing so physical. I don't see this team like dropping off much. I don't see them maybe necessarily being Super Bowl ready. I'm not saying they're my Super Bowl pick, but I don't see them dropping off much, and they'll be 10, 11, 12 wins by the end of the season, I think, like no problem.
I got the Lions here too. Jumping on that, I got them here too. They're really consistent. You're 100% right, and they play all 3 phases really good. The defense is good. Their offense is good. Goff, I gave him a lot of credit last year for the year he had, and they're good special teams. So, and I really like both. I like their coaching staff. I do like Dan Campbell, and Ben Johnson's a beast. So, Paul, who do you got at number 3?
I got the Bengals. I think they're scheduling the
Get
next
the
couple
fuck
weeks.
out of here.
1-4 Bengals.
Yeah, I think they're scheduling the next 4 weeks is all going to be victories. So I think we're going to be talking about a 5-4 Bengals team.
Well, if you
And
call that, we'll have you back on the
I
table.
just think, man, I value the quarterback position highly, and Joe Burrow's still playing very well. And I think
I
over the course
thought
of
that
time, it pans out. So yeah,
I
that's
thought
what
that 2 weeks ago, and they lost both those games
I
after
get
scoring
it.
105 points. So
Yeah,
Well, Paul, I had a takeaway I didn't put in there because we talked about some other breaking news, but Burrow's so good. I'm asking myself at 1-4, are we counting him out? So I will
yeah, I'm
say
not.
that, but I'm not giving my top 5. But that's a hot take. I love it, Paul. Love it, Paul.
Yeah,
Greg, who's your
yeah,
number
no,
3?
I have Detroit. I just their consistent. The offense seems to find different ways to score. The defense is playing well, and like I said, I think with Dallas's worst attribute stopping the run. I think David Montgomery, if anybody has David Montgomery in fantasy football, you should put him in, try to put him in twice because he's going to have about 4,000 yards in Sunday's game.
All right, Dave. What's your number 2, bud?
I'm gonna go with Kansas City. Um, I like them. I don't love them this year, but I mean, we say that every year, and for whatever reason,
Yeah.
like I don't know, it's referees, it's Patrick Mahomes magic, it's I don't know. There's like a weird air around them that you have to like them, and they also win in similar ways to Detroit. It's like kind of
Right.
when Craig final like wrapped up his point against Detroit. He's saying they find different ways to win. Like that's what I love about good football teams. They're just like creative, and they just
Yeah.
figure out a way to beat the matchup that week. And that's kind of just what Kansas City will always do. At the end of the day, I think if everybody comes back and is healthy, they are super talented on offense. But if they're not, I don't think it's enough to get them over the hump. But we said that again last year. And I don't think the defense upgraded as much as everybody thought they would. And I think that defense took a downturn, and that Chris Jones is a year older. So if something fails in the playoffs, I think it might be the defense because that is the only thing on this team that actually took a noticeable dip.
They
And
lost
last
a
year, it's
really
what
good quarterback, right? What
Yeah,
was
they
his name?
lost L'Jarius Sneed to Tennessee. They had to trade him away because they couldn't pay him. But there's no like exceptional players on their defense other than Chris Jones, and he's 32. And if something fails and that's what carried them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and go next as the Chiefs are my number 2. You know, it's funny because I
Really like
suck.
explaining how number 2 team is like not the best.
Right.
You
But
glitched
like
out for a
yeah,
minute
that's
there, yeah.
that's where
I thought you
that's-
stopped talking. That's why I started talking.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was
about
just
that.
saying like
No,
I'm
you're
finding
good.
ways to complain about the number 2 best team in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's whatever.
Yeah.
They're still sick. They're still super complete. They're coached. Same thing. And this is one of those things that I've noticed, and me and Paul talked about this yesterday. I think we're going to start making a little theory. When you have 2 head coaches on your staff, you're just going to be really, really good.
Right. I got the Chiefs here too. Like I talked about how Patrick Mahomes isn't playing all that well and this and that, but I said it last year they won the Super Bowl. So still a team you gotta they're the best team one of the best teams of football, and they're probably gonna be in the championship again. So Paul, let's go with you this time. What's your number 2 team?
Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Yeah, I just think it's funny because you could probably take my top 5 teams and it would probably mimic what I think the top 5 quarterbacks are right now. So, yeah. It's just, man, they're still rocking and rolling, kicking. So I think they're a really damn good team. And until they prove otherwise to me, they're number 2 in my book.
All right, Craig, who do you got?
I had already. So you want one?
Number 2? Who's your number 2?
Lions. I mean, Chiefs. I had already said.
Okay, sorry, yeah. I did not hear that. My bad. All right, yeah, Craig, give me your number 1 then.
Well, it's got to be Baltimore. They've played better after a terrible start. Lamar's look better. The defenses look better. I think they have a schedule that's easier from here for a little while in playing Washington. I think they roll through Washington. I think that win Sunday was a huge win because you let the Bengals right back in the division and everything. If you lose that football game, that makes everything a lot tighter. So now you have a head-to-head, and you've got some space between the Bengals, who really probably are your only threat in that division. So yeah, I think that was a big win for them.
All right, Dave, who's your number 1, bud?
Baltimore as well. Same thing. Creative ways to win. They pass, they run, they play defense, they score on defense, they have good special teams. I don't know. I think they might be more of a sucker for the moment type number 1 pick, maybe for me and Craig. I think there's a few more gaps in their team than I want to think about, but their last 3 weeks have been just so good that it's better than everyone else's 3 weeks. Like if you present the best 3 weeks from each team on our list so far, Baltimore's best 3 weeks has been better than anyone else's by far. So maybe it's just like a timing issue thing for me. But if the Baltimore Ravens can present these last 3 weeks like somewhere in the playoffs, I don't think anyone else on our lists are stopping them. So that's where I'm kind of like, there's just no thing. If anybody else brings up the Bengals one more time in this goddamn episode, I'm gonna lose my mind. I don't want to hear one more thing about the Bengals. Who's paying you people? This team sucks.
Hey, that was Paul, not me.
I just mentioned that they're the only competition in the division. They have the second overall draft pick right now.
It'll change.
I'm losing my mind.
They should have won that game, and they just choked it away. But I digress. I got, you talk about being a sucker for the moment. I got Minnesota number 1. We're 5-0. They're playing really good right now. They barely beat the Packers by hanging on. It's a divisional game. They're tougher. They played a tough defense in London. They beat the Jets. So they're 5-0. I got to give them their props. I had them in the top 5 last week. They continue to win. So I got to have them here. And I think the worst pick is so far the Bengals for Paul. They're in the top 5. But go ahead, Paul. What's your number 1?
No, yeah, it's the thing though. Like I was debating whether Minnesota should be number 5 over Tampa for me, and it's because when I do my rankings, I try not to pay so much attention to the record when it's so early on, right? And like I said, the Bengals can bounce back just fine and wind up finishing the season better off than maybe the Vikings can. So we'll see what happens. It's a long year, and it
That'd be
happens every
tough.
year. But
That'd be tough.
over the course of time, certain things tend to pan out. The Bengals have just had bad luck. The Vikings have had really good luck. But number one for me is the Chiefs. I mean, until we beat them, until somebody out there goes out and beat them, and the only team that has been able to do it has been the Bengals, really, right? And even when they played them this year, they still had a really close game with them in week 2. So yeah, the Chiefs are on top. Patrick Mahomes is like the Michael Jordan of football, in my opinion. So it's kind of weird being like, oh, Michael Jordan had a bad game. Blah blah blah. Like, could you imagine criticizing him? No, you can't. And that's what's going on with the Chiefs right now. Like, every team's gonna have its slumps, ups and downs, this and that. Overall, they get it done. They get it done every time. The only time they have lost a Super Bowl was to Tom Brady, the other Michael Jordan of football. So yeah, to me, it's hands down the Chiefs, no questions asked. So
All right. Well, it's been an interesting show. You guys, thanks for jumping on, and the more the merrier. Paul asked me
yeah,
if you could jump on. David said, "No more the merrier." I love to talk football and the sports. The show goes, a lot longer, but that's okay.
yeah. Sorry
Yeah,
about that,
Definitely.
but
some of
thank
us
you,
have
man.
to get up an hour and a half and
Yeah,
go to work.
Craig's got to go to work at 1 a.m.,
Yeah.
so he's a little crazy.
Sorry,
but-
Craig.
Sorry. I appreciate you guys having me on. Hopefully, I wasn't like
Of course.
this is just me doing my football shtick. So
No, you're fine. We love to talk sports.
And we got to return the favor and have you guys come on with us at some point too. So
Definitely, definitely will do. Um, yeah, we just like talk. We'd like to talk sports. So we could continue going on after football. But it's a good time.
Hockey
You got
starts
you got
Thursday.
you got hockey. You got MLB playoffs. You got football. You've got basketball. Preseason. So it's a good time. Good time of year for
baseball,
sports fans.
to me, it's depressing right now. If you guys want to mention the fact that it's like probably LA and New York is just the lamest thing.
I was
in
going to say
sports.
end the show. and
Fernando
then talk.
Tatis is my hero, so LA is about on the brink of elimination.
Yeah, but even then, it's still San Diego, and I'm just like,
Right.
California, New York don't deserve championships ever.
Well, honestly, I hope Detroit somehow rubs magic and rides that, but I don't know. We'll see.
I was
I'll
hoping
take
the
Detroit, I'll
Phillies
take
won it,
Cleveland.
They're
but
in trouble.
they're in trouble. They choke it away again. The New York Mets. Like, how are you that they've talent all over the board and they continue they somehow don't show up in the playoffs. But hey, it sounds like the Cowboys. Last shot there, Craig. Sorry. All right, guys. Well, that is the
One more
episode.
shot? One
Go
more
ahead.
shot?
One more shot.
It was funny because you were telling me about how many regular season wins Dak Prescott has and this and that. But like at the end of the day, we're in the same boat. Like, how many playoff wins have you guys won? How many have we won? That's what matters. So if you don't show up in the playoffs, man,
But
I
see,
could care
he
less
shows
about
up in the
this.
playoffs. Again, he didn't let
He
up.
didn't show up in
42.
the playoff game last year. He had interceptions. He
one
had
interception,
and he got most of his,
and it was because he was
most
down, and it was because he was down 1,000 trying to bring him back.
and he got most of his stuff during our
Okay.
we put our backup defense in there and almost let you guys come back, and we're like, all right, let's put an end to this.
have a good
So-
night, guys.
Anyways, all right, guys, that's the episode tonight. God bless, and remember,
Keep it out, folks.
Take care.